I watched The Art of Sarah and honestly, the script let me down hard. I genuinely loved watching The Art of Sarah. The visuals were stunning. The fashion was great, I think. I'm not a very fashionable person, and Shin Hae-sun gave a great performance. She just is Sarah Kim, in all her fractured glory. But even with all that going for it, I can't pretend the script didn't let me down. Hard. Like, this was bad. The writing had so much promise, and you can feel how much effort went into crafting this ambitious, layered mystery. But somewhere along the way it got tangled in its own cleverness and never quite untangled itself. This story starts with a body. A woman is found dead. We're told it's the wealthy founder of a luxury brand, Sarah Kim, which I didn't buy. Since they mention repeatedly that her face is smashed, can't find DNA or fingerprints match anywhere. But mostly because I don't think most drama stories have it in them to kill off the lead. The story quickly shifts from who killed Sarah Kim to who is Sarah. The woman at the center of everything built an exclusive luxury brand, supposedly 100 years old, known only by the top 1% of the top 1%. A brand that thrives on secrecy and status. Except, it's all fake. But here's the interesting part. It works. People believe her because she looks the part. She performs wealth convincingly. And in a world obsessed with appearance, performance is enough. There's a line that gets repeated throughout the story. If you can't tell a fake from the real thing, how can you call it fake? On the surface, it sounds like a clever defense of counterfeit goods. But it's bigger than that. It questions whether authenticity even has meaning in a society where value is built entirely on perception. If everyone treats something as real, does it really matter that it isn't? I finished The Art of Sarah a while back, and I'm still thinking about it. And it's not that the plot blew my mind. Honestly, the plot is the part that keeps giving me a headache, but because of one character, Sarah Kim, or Mok Ji-hui, or Kim Eun-jae, or whichever name she was wearing that week. She's the only thing in this entire drama that feels alive, urgent, fully realized, and impossible to look away from. Let me be clear. Again, I don't think the show is perfect. The story is a mess. Twists on top of twists, timelines that fold in on themselves, reveals that sometimes feel like they're trying to outsmart me instead of telling me a story. There are moments where I literally paused the episode, stared at the ceiling, and said, wait, what? That doesn't make any sense, but every single time I started to check out, Sarah Kim pulled me back in. She's not just the main character, she's the emotional gravity holding everything together, and the only character fully realized. Look, everyone except Sarah could be replaced with a plant and the drama would still be the same. Without her, the whole thing would float away into forgettable Netflix noise. In most dramas, the mystery is about who did it. But in the 2026 hit The Art of Sarah, also known as Lady Dwar, the mystery is about who the main character even is. Sarah Kim isn't a person, she's more of brand. Throughout the series, she cycles through names like outfits. Mok Ji-hui, Due, Kim Eun-jae, and finally, the elegant Sarah Kim. Every single one of them is a lie, but she plays them so well that by the end, you're left wondering if there was ever a real person underneath the masks. So, how did a girl who started with nothing become the most magnetic, morally gray figure in modern K-drama? A bit of an exaggeration, but you get the point. To understand that, we have to look at the world that tried to erase her first. Before the designer heels and the global brand, she was Mok Ji-hui. She was a struggling sales clerk in a high-end luxury store, and her life was a daily lesson in class warfare. The show doesn't just tell you she's poor, it shows you the humiliation. Ji-hui sells bags that cost more than she'll make in a year, but she isn't allowed to use the customer bathrooms or ride the same elevators. She is a ghost in a temple of wealth. One day, that hierarchy breaks her. After holding her all shift because of these bathroom rules, the employee bathroom is quite far from her station. She finally leaves her post for a few minutes. In that tiny window, a watch worth 50 million won is stolen. The store doesn't care about the thief, they hold Ji-hui responsible. This 50 million won debt is the catalyst. She is really struggling to pay back the money. One day her supervisor asks her to go to the store. I don't really know what to call it. But it's a store that provides discounts for employees of the company where she works. The bags there are super cheap. Desperate, she buys a discounted bag from an employee outlet and tries to flip it online. It fails. She realizes people don't buy bags. They buy the feeling of being important. So, she takes a photo of a famous influencer, photoshops her own face onto the body, and suddenly, the orders flood in. She pays off the debt in cash, but the store catches on that someone is abusing the system, and they limit everyone's purchases. Her business collapses, and Jiehui jumps into a lake to end it all. But she survives. And the woman who climbs out of that water is done playing by the rules. She decides right then to become the kind of person luxury bags are made for. We don't see what Jiehui does immediately after the suicide, but we know that she fakes her death to get rid of her debt. Jiehui is next seen in the testimony of her former husband and loan shark Hong Shin, where we find her working in a hostess club to entertain male guests under the name Due. Due strikes a deal with a dying moneylender, her kidney in exchange for 500 million won. Since organ transplant from a stranger is illegal in Korea and spouses must be married for at least 1 year before organ donation, the two get married. He gives her a new identity, a naive American-born Oxford graduate named Kim Eun-jae. Shin schools her in elite manners and access. Under this mask, she starts her most ambitious move yet. She manipulates a host bar worker, Kang Ji-won, into believing she's a victim in an abusive marriage. While he's protecting her, she uses his connections to plant a seed, the legend of boudoir, a century-old British luxury bag house, while using Ji-won's clients to spread the lie. She claims boudoir is a centuries-old British luxury house known only to the ultra-elite. It's a total myth lie, but because she looks the part, people believe it. She even takes a literal knife for Shin to prove her loyalty, securing his fortune when he passes. Instead of staying and killing him for his money, Eun-jae plans to leave to set up her next character. Except, like in any drama, her identity comes into question. One of the loan sharks working under Shin recognizes her as Jiehui, and before she can escape with the money, she is caught by his goons. Eun-jae is about to be killed when the financier, in a moment of weakness for all the moments she stood by him, calls it off. Moved, she goes through with the organ donation anyway, recovers, and again goes missing with Shin-sin's money and his cherished 500 million won tree. When she comes back, she isn't just a con artist anymore. She is Sarah Kim. As Sarah Kim, she makes the boudoir myth a reality. She uses her newfound fortune to actually launch the company. She finds a factory worker who can create superfakes, counterfeits so perfect they're indistinguishable from the real thing. But Sarah knows the product doesn't matter. What matters is the story. She markets boudoir as so exclusive that you can't just buy it, you have to be invited to buy it. The irony is staggering. A woman built on lies creates a brand whose value is entirely based on perception. The fake becomes real because the world believes it's real. At this point, Sarah Kim is basically a logo. Sarah Kim builds her empire using Kim Mi-jong's skill. Kim Mi-jong is the worker who creates the fakes for Sarah's empire. Over time, the Kim Mi-jong begins to blur the line between admiration and resentment. She's asked to impersonate Sarah once, just for convenience. A simple favor. But something shifts. Kim Mi-jong starts wanting the life, not just the role. She steals her credit card. She shops as her. She steps into her identity like it's a dress she can try on. And here's the unsettling part. People believe it. The story slowly moves from fake luxury to fake self. If identity is performance, what actually makes someone real? Simply, if someone else can play the role perfectly, did the real Sarah ever exist? This leads us to the shocking, convoluted finale. Kim Mi-jong discovers that her bags, that she is very proud of, are good enough for the richest of the richest. She loves that these people appreciate her work, her art. She is validated by it. Then it hits her. Sarah is making millions from her work, while she's barely scraping by. The tension explodes when Kim Mi-jong decides to kill Sarah and fully take her place. On a practical level, it seems irrational. Sarah's success came from personal relationships and proximity. People knew her face. But thematically, it makes sense. If status is constructed, if identity is built on perception, then the body doesn't matter as much as the narrative. It doesn't make much logical sense, but it works thematically. The show actually starts with a body being found. Face smashed, no DNA match. We spend the whole series wondering who died. In the end, we find out that Kim Mi-jong tried to kill Sarah to take her place, and Sarah killed her in self-defense. But the final twist is where the story fully commits to its theme. If Sarah goes to prison as herself, the Sarah Kim brand is exposed as a fraud and boudoir dies. So, she makes a final, tragic choice. She lets the world believe the Kim Mi-jong killed Sarah Kim. She goes to prison under the identity of the crazy worker. She sacrifices her existence so that the idea of Sarah Kim remains perfect. In a strange way, Kim Mi-jong finally got what she wanted. She becomes Sarah Kim, if only in death. So Sarah chooses to erase herself. She sacrifices her legal identity to preserve the brand. The ultimate con artist becomes the counterfeit. And that's the final statement of the story. In a world built on image, the myth matters more than the person. The brand survives. The individual disappears. It's not just about fraud. It's about how easily society rewards performance over truth. I admire go-getters. I admire confidence. But this story asks an uncomfortable question. If we can't tell the difference between real and fake, are we being deceived, or are we complicit? In the end, the body doesn't matter. The name doesn't matter. The truth doesn't matter. The only thing that survives is the story people choose to believe. And that might be the most unsettling luxury of all. Yes, I'm dramatic. So, why do I love her? First, because her ambition comes from a place of raw, relatable pain. She didn't want a mansion. She wanted to stop being invisible. Second, she exists in that uncomfortable gray area. She's a liar and a manipulator, but you understand why she's doing it. Ultimately, Sarah Kim is a mirror. She captures the central question of our era: what is the difference between fake and real? If society only values you based on your brand, then Sarah Kim is the ultimate winner. She proved that identity, like luxury, can be manufactured. And once the illusion is perfect, no one ever bothers to look for the truth. Now, let me walk you through the parts that kept pulling me out of the story. First, there's the corpse in episode 4. I'm still not over it. They introduce a body in a lake, a real, actual dead person, and it's treated like this massive, ominous clue. The detective stares at crime scene photos, there's moody music, the camera lingers on the bloated face. And then, nothing. The show just moves on. Never explains who it is, how it connects, or doesn't, to Sarah, why it was even there. It's like the writers wrote themselves into a corner, shrugged, and decided, let's pretend that didn't happen. I kept waiting for the payoff. Episode 5. Episode 6. Episode 8. Finale. Nada. It's one of those dangling threads that makes you question whether the entire mystery was built on quicksand. It was. Most of the attention was spent on Sarah and look of the drama. Then there's the CCTV issue, and honestly, this one is so obvious it hurts. Sarah Kim isn't some ghost. She's a public-facing figure, attending launches, gallery openings, charity galas, rubbing elbows with Seoul's elite. There should be dozens, hundreds of hours of security footage showing her smiling, posing, being seen. Yet when the police are trying to prove her identity, they somehow never manage to pull up a single clear clip of Sarah Kim at any of these events. Not one. Not a grainy side profile from a hotel lobby, not a phone video from a guest, nothing. Instead, they end up convicting her under the victim's name like the CCTV fairy just waved her wand and erased every camera in the city. It's the kind of plot hole that makes you go, come on, even my little cousin would notice this. It broke immersion every time they leaned on lack of evidence to keep her story going. The ending. Oh man, the ending. After 8 episodes of building this intricate web of lies, multiple identities, and philosophical questions about authenticity, The finale tries to tie it all up with a con within a con within a con twist that felt more exhausting than clever. It's like the writers had a checklist. Okay, we need one more layer, one more betrayal, one more reveal. So they kept adding until the whole thing collapsed under its own weight. The final prison scene, that long, silent stare from Sarah, should have been devastating. It should have felt like the natural, heartbreaking conclusion to everything she sacrificed. Instead, it landed flat because the path to get there was so convoluted that the emotional payoff got lost in the noise. I wanted to feel gutted. I felt mildly confused. And don't get me wrong, the show has a powerful central message. Certain circumstances create someone like Sarah Kim, and other circumstances let people like her thrive or get punished. In a society obsessed with appearances, that theme is sharp, biting, and beautifully observed. But the delivery in the last 2 episodes felt rushed. Like someone realized they were running out of time and decided to speedrun the resolution instead of letting it breathe. The narrative cohesion just evaporates. Loose ends stay loose. Questions stay unanswered. And the standard murder mystery resolution, after all that build-up, feels like a letdown. It's frustrating because you can see how good it could have been. The bones are there. The ambition is there. The talent is definitely there. But the script kept getting in its own way, introducing plot points it never paid off, piling on complexity without earning the emotional weight, and ultimately leaving me with a beautiful dress that's missing half its buttons. Sarah Kim deserved better writing. She deserved a story that matched her complexity instead of tripping over it. And honestly, so did we. I still think about her. I still replay certain scenes in my head. But every time I do, I can't help but wonder what this drama could have been if the script had trusted her character to carry the weight instead of trying to bury her under a mountain of unnecessary twists. That's the real tragedy. Not the one on screen. The one behind the scenes. And then there is the side characters are cardboard cutouts wearing expensive suits. The detective, Park Moo-jaeong? Lee Jun-hyuk is a great actor, but zero character. He's just the guy who asks questions. We get no real sense of why this case matters to him personally, no inner life, no stakes beyond I have to solve it. He exists to react to Sarah, that's it. The final twist is so over-engineered that it feels more like a math problem than an emotional payoff. Look, I'm not saying the show is bad. Visually, it's stunning. The fashion is insane. The music slaps. And Shin Hae-sun? She's giving a career-defining performance. She makes every version of Sarah feel lived in, wounded, human. She's the reason I kept watching. She's the reason I still think about the show. But the script? The actual story underneath all that shine? It's a beautiful dress with a torn lining and missing buttons. It looks incredible from 10 feet away, but the closer you get, the more threads are hanging loose. I wanted to love it unreservedly. Instead, I'm left with this weird mix of admiration and frustration. Sarah Kim deserved better writing. And honestly, so did we. If you've seen it, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me the plot holes didn't bother you. Tell me the ending worked for you. I genuinely want to know. Because right now, I'm still sitting here wondering how a show with such a phenomenal lead character ended up tripping over its own feet so badly. Drop your thoughts below. And I will see you next time.